Hello and welcome back to the Meadowbank Thistle podcast, your weekly instalment of the Meadowbank Thistle story. My name is Morgan Knock, and if you're still wondering why this English guy is here talking about Meadowbank Thistle, that means you haven't listened to episode 1. If you're interested in hearing more about the project this podcast is a part of, or you'd like to find out more about who I am, then the first episode is just 15 minutes long, and I would really recommend going back to give that one a listen. I want to say a big thank you to every single person listening to me now. You are making this all worthwhile. I've had some really nice feedback on the first few episodes from a really wide variety of people, and it's been quite humbling. I and the committee have lots of work on ahead of the 2025 Meadowbank Thistle reunion, which is taking place at Parkside Bowling Club in Edinburgh on the 31st of May. Currently, there is an exclusive pre-sale of tickets to players, their families, and my contacts. Tickets will go on general sale on the 1st of April, and all the details of how to purchase will be shared on our social channels and this podcast closer to the date. If you've received the ticket link already, then this is your exclusive period to secure a ticket as the capacity is limited. Don't miss out. Once you've got your ticket, this is what's in store. We have secured 3 speakers for the night: Alan Banks, Jim Leishman and Terry Christie. As if that wasn't enough, there will be a ceremony celebrating some of the club's biggest names, opportunities to get yourself some exclusive Meadowbank Thistle merchandise, you'll get a programme, and there's even a buffet included, all for the very reasonable price of £10. I'll reiterate at this stage that I don't stand to gain anything financially from any of this work, and all profits from all of these activities will be donated to the Edinburgh Food Project, who run most of the food banks in the city. We're still looking to add more exciting activities to the agenda for the night. If you think you can support the event and all this podcast through sponsorship or in any other way, then please get in touch. Specifically on the event side, you can contact anyone on the reunion committee. That's myself, David Baxter, David Stoker, Alan Banks, Stuart Williamson, Laurie Dunn, Tom Hendry or Jim McQueen. So that's the reunion, 31st of May 2025 at Parkside Bowling Club, starting at 7 p.m. On today's podcast is Lee Bailey. He played 117 games for Meadowbank Thistle, scoring 28 goals, as well as a further 33 appearances for the reserves where he scored 20 goals. He joined from Hibs in 1992 on a free transfer and went on to play in West Lothian, then for Queen of the South, Brechin City, Stirling Albion, East Fife and a number of junior teams, also becoming the assistant manager at Brechin City. So today we welcome to the show Lee Bailey.
Thank you, Morgan. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for taking the time to speak to me. So we'll dive straight in. Can you tell me a bit about your childhood and your early involvement in football, please?
Yeah, grew up in Drylaw, which is north Edinburgh. It's quite a rough area. It was an area where the train spotting videos and these were shot. Really kind of rough streets, but it was a great childhood growing up. You had lots of friends. It was probably about 30 kids in our street that we played with. And if it was Wimbledon on, we'd play tennis. If it was the Olympics, we'd do athletics. Or obviously, football was all year round, and we just played football all the time. But it was, as I said, it was quite a rough area. And my mum and dad, and my dad was a joiner, my mum was a nurse. It's just good working class people, good standards, good morals, and they put me to karate very early when I was 5-year-old, and I was the youngest black belt in Scotland when I was about 9.5. I don't know if that was a good thing, because as soon as that was in the paper, everybody wanted to fight me at school. But it was a very enjoyable childhood. We had fun. We made our own fun, played our own games. But mostly it was playing football in the street, which was a fantastic learning curve, because there was never a coach over your shoulder telling you what to do and what not to do. You learn how to play the game.
So what was your first involvement in organised football?
So first involvement was the school team. I was in primary 4. I was about 8-year-old, and I got selected for the school team. And I remember we'd go along, and I was tiny. I was maybe 8, and there was kids at 11, nearly 12, and they were huge compared to me. But the teacher would say, "Lee, you'll be my star next year." I remember him saying that. Mr. McCrossan was his name, saying, "You'll be my star next year." Primary 5, I ended up getting selected for the Leaf schools, which is maybe about 30 primary schools, represented the region area. for 3 seasons, but I played for the BBs, my boys' club. I was playing with Hearts and Hibs at a young age as well. It's sort of early involvement. It was just football all the time, Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, Sunday with the BBs, but absolutely loved it. Just loved playing football.
And Hearts were the first pro club to take an interest.
Yeah, a young lad come to the school, maybe in primary 5, primary 6, and his dad started up Edinburgh Thistle when we had a really strong team right for the word go, and we were winning everything in the sort of federation leagues and scored something like 212 goals in one season. It was in the paper, like 212 goals, but that was for accumulation of boys club, boys brigade, Leaf Select, Hearts, Hibs. I was maybe playing for about 5 or 16, but I scored like 212 goals, and at that time was just getting a lot of interest for senior clubs, and Hearts were the first senior club that I went along and trained with. It was good. My dad was Hibs mad, I was Hibs mad, but kind of just that thought of going, getting better training, playing with better players. It was crazy because when you think back, I used to get on the number 1 bus for Drylaw, and it would take me straight to Tynecastle Stadium at 10 and a half year old. And then I would do my training and get the bus back at like 9, 10 at night, which you would never do that nowadays. And when I was at Hearts, as I say, scoring lots of goals and lots of interest for Manchester United, Tottenham wanting to sign schoolboy forms and that. And but as soon as Hibs asked me, I was Hibs, as I say, I was Hibs mad. Andy Perry, who was the Manchester United head scout, had phoned me when we were watching a spaghetti western on a Tuesday night with me and my dad after karate, and asked me to sign for Manchester United, and I knocked him back and said, no, I want to sign for Hibs, and then I signed for Hibs. You weren't allowed to sign schoolboy forms until you were 12, but I think I was 11. I'd signed the form and they'd put it in the drawer for a year before they could bring it out, so that was good. It was just loved playing football. Absolutely loved it. Couldn't get enough of playing football in the street with your friends, organised football, and you're getting recognition and you're good at something. It makes you feel good, your confidence and that as well. So yeah, it was I really enjoyed my childhood growing up and my early years playing football.
Excellent. So you signed the schoolboy forms for Hibs. What does that actually mean on a week-to-week basis?
So basically, you can't sign for any other club. So that means Hibs would sign me schoolboy forms, and they would put money in an account for me for when I was 16, and then when I was 16, I would get all the money they put away. It wasn't a lot of money, £6,000 or something by the time I was 16, but that was going back to about 1986. Hibs were fantastic at sort of under 15, under 16. We went to Europe and won 2 tournaments, and you had teams like Juventus were there, Man City were there, Reno, and big European clubs at youth level, and we managed to win both tournaments without conceding a goal. Hibs were always strong at youth level. They always attracted good players. I left school in about 15 and a half, and that's when I signed full time with Hibs, and you get sign a contract where you're on the ground staff. So basically, you're a young pro. You're in the morning. You've got players' boots that you have to clean. You've got the dressing room. You've got to get the kit ready. So you had chores along with your football training. Right for the start at 15, 16, you were training with the first team, which was crazy. You were training with like George McCluskey, who'd had 300-400 games for Celtic, who was 35-year-old. Do you know what I mean? So it was a valuable learning experience, training and playing with these kind of players.
And he had a couple of really good runs in the youth cup.
Yeah, as I say, we had a good youth side. We got beaten the BP Youth by Dundee United on penalties, but that in their team was like Duncan Ferguson, Christian Daly, Scottish internationals, Gary Boland, Scottish international, Andy McLaren. And it was a real strong team. And to be fair, we probably should have beat them, but we got beat on penalties in the think it broke the record. I think it was about 8,500 crowd or something for a youth game at Easter Road. It was good. It was a good upbringing playing in with Hibs. There was a lot of good players. One of the questions you said, how many players went on to play? There was a lot for that youth team. You had like Chris Reid went on to play maybe 60, 70 games in Hibs first team. Stephen Tweed, Davy Nichols playing for Falkirk, Mark Duffy, Paul Telfer, who played for Celtic and Coventry, Darren Solon, who was really unfortunate. Don't know if you know Darren Solon, he went down to Luton Town and he was in a car crash and then he had to retire. You had like Graham Love, who played a lot of games for Hibs, Colin McDonald, Chris Jackson. So there was lots of players that kind of had a good upbringing and they might not have made it to the highest level, but they played football at a good level for a long time.
And so you were there with Mark Duthie, who obviously you spent a lot of your career with. Tell us a bit about your relationship with him.
I mean, like me, most of the Meadowbank players and that, we all knew each other. Most of us grew up in Edinburgh, and Mark played for Leith schools, and I played for Ferry Hill, which was Groat Hill and Drylaw combined. My first involvement Mark Duffy was playing their school team in a cup final, and we had won every cup that year, and we were going for a clean sweep. But it was the biggest cup that we were playing in the cup final at Warriston, and I scored a hat trick, and they beat us 4-3, and me Ferret scored the winner for them, and school, and I was raging. Now, since we were 11-year-old, we're each other, and that goes for a lot of the people that are still friends with now. Again, I was at Hibs on the ground staff with Mark, played with him at Livingston, Meadowbank.
Brilliant. And so you're in the successful youth cup team, you're winning these tournaments in Europe. Do you think you've got a big career at Hibs?
I think so. I mean, that time it was really difficult to break into the first team. I mean, the kind of players that you're talking about in the first team ahead of me as a striker was Keith Wright, who was a fantastic player. Keith Houchin, he scored the winning goal for Coventry City against Tottenham in the FA Cup final. Steve Archibald was unbelievable. You had real good players, and then when you're 16, 17, it's very hard to dislodge. George McCluskey played a lot of games for Celtic. You learned a lot from them. I'd say the one thing about them is they were all good pros, good people. They looked after the young boys at the club, and but it was a challenge trying to displace them and get into the team. The standard of the reserve games back then was real good. I remember playing against Rangers and Ibrox, and the reserve team was Terry Butcher, Trevor Stephen, Gary Stephen, Mikhail Jenko, Kuznetsov. Again, it was multi-million pound, England internationals and that kind of stuff. So Terry Hurlock, I was playing against Terry Hurlock. I played for Mill. He looked Millwall. He looked like Wolf at the Gladiator. I never took more than 2 touches that day, so he couldn't tackle me. But it was a great experience, and Alec Miller had great knowledge at Easter Road. He was a fantastic tactician. I mean, he was at Liverpool for 9 years, Scotland assistant manager, and his knowledge of the game was outstanding. Probably lacked on man management skills, but his knowledge of the game and our learning off the game was very, very good at Hibs, but probably could have treated us better at times. Probably wouldn't have got away with some of the stuff that they got away with then, but now.
So was it Alec Miller who broke the news that they weren't keeping you on?
I mean, it was one of them where I'd been in the Hibs reserves, goal scorer for 2 seasons, knocking on the door, getting near the first team and that, and then I played in the first team on Saturday against Aberdeen. Aberdeen were really strong. We won 1-0, and he took us off after about 75 minutes. And after the game, he says, "You're starting next week, but you're going to go up during the week and play against St Johnstone in the reserves. You'll play a half, and you'll start on Saturday again." Went up to St Johnstone midweek, scored after about 15 minutes. Big Bobby Man, who played for Inverness Cali for years, who I've played against him lots when we were at Livingston. He was late as usual on a tackle, and I done my ankle, and I think that was round about the October time, and I never got fit until about the March. And then within that spell, young Graham Donald had come into the team, and he scored about 7 games in a row. And ironically, at the end of the season, Herman had come in for me, and Alec Miller wouldn't let me go. And then at the end of the season, he says, I'm signing Darren Jackson, I've got Keith Wright, Graham Donald's coming through. And they had like Gareth Evans and other strikers, and he just says, I feel you're too good to play in the reserves, but I'll put a good word in for you, but I'm going to let you go. And I was destroyed, because I thought, you know what I mean? Being in around the first team, he was talking about me in interviews and that, saying that Kenny was expecting me to break through, that kind of stuff. Meant to be going away with the Scotland under 18s and that, but I got injured on my ankle, and I just went down to the gym and I hit the speedball for about 6 minutes, and tears were streaming to my eyes. It was horrible, horrible. Your dreams.
Well, it's good you can look back and smile now. I'm certainly smiling.
I know that, but that was it. I mean, I grew up a Hibs fan all my life. When I made my debut, I remember my dad like sitting in the stand crying. But that was a tough day, but it makes you stronger.
So Alex says he's going to put a good word in for you. Are there several options on the table?
I was surprised, because Dunfermline had come in for me. Jockey Scott was the manager, and I knew that they were interested, and then they never come in for us at the end of it. And then obviously Parky came in for me at Meadowbank, which was great, because I knew pretty much most of the squad. The only thing I didn't like the fact it was going to be part-time, so it would have to job, but I still had aspirations to try and keep myself fit, try and move, get moved back up. And then I signed for Meadowbank. I think it was like the Wednesday, and the Thursday Tommy Burns, who was manager at Kilmarnock, but he phoned us up and wanted to sign me for Kilmarnock, and I'd already signed for Meadowbank. But I don't have any regrets.
It's a big change going part-time. Did you go and get a job straight away, or do you think I can stick this out for 12 months and get a move?
Well, I mean, I remember when I got paid for Hibs, going to the job centre, and they're saying, what do you do? And I'm like, I play football. But what is your skill set? And there was no skill set. You've played football since you were 11-year-old. You didn't do anything else, so that's all you knew. And Murray McDermott, he was a goalkeeping coach at Meadowbank, lovely man. He pretty much got all the young boys jobs in the Scottish office, like administrative assistant. I absolutely hated it. Office work, computers, they can going for training every day out on the pitch, sitting in an office 8 hours a day. It was horrible, but it was something that you had to do, and it was another character building situation. So I done that for a year, and then I enrolled in college and done a HND in sports coaching and development. Well, so I done that pretty much when I was playing at Meadowbank.
But are you still living at home at this time?
Still staying with my mum and dad in Drylaw yet.
You coming into this dressing room, Terry Christie's just left after 12 years. Parky's turning things over. What's the atmosphere like on day one?
You know, I was oblivious to that. Honestly, I had no idea what went before. I knew about Terry. I knew his reputation as a manager. I heard he was fantastic. Meadowbank always sort of punched above their weight. Had some really good players, and I never knew the situation why Terry left. I never knew that there was any sort of animosity in the background. Come in, again, quite a bubbly character. Just want to get in the dressing room, have a bit of fun, work hard, train hard, good standards, and I was oblivious. I was oblivious to what was happening in the background or what had happened previously. And to be fair, I loved Parky, but I wasn't aware of that sort of scenario when I arrived at the club.
And do you recall the first time you met Donald Park? Did you know him beforehand, or?
No, I never knew him. Never knew him beforehand. I knew he had played for Hearts, so I probably didn't like him to start with because he'd been an ex-Hearts player. But no, just when I'd met him and spoke to him and went up and he asked me up for training, that kind of stuff. And I remember the first night of training we were doing this possession drill, and I mean, because I'd been injured for most of the end of that season, I trained all throughout the pre-season, and I was flat. And played a possession game, and he paired me up with Tam Graham, and I'm getting on the ball, turning, twisting, nutmeg, Tam playing wee 1-2s, and then Tam Graham has absolutely leathered me. I mean, leathered. almost like, all right, well, welcome to part-time football. You're not going to do that, but they done it deliberately. They knew Tam was a good defender and would play the game, and his match paired me up man for man against him. So no, but that was I enjoyed him under Donald. But to be fair, the change room when I first come to Meadowbank, the change room was fantastic. You had guys like Davy Roseborough, good pro, Graham Armstrong, good pro, Gordon Ray, who I was his boot boy when we were at Hibs, and then obviously within a short period of time you had Poodle. You think this was a zoo, then you got Mouse, which was Malcolm Murray. So you had Poodle and Mouse. They were Gordon McLeod, experienced player, Malcolm Murray, ex-Hearts player, experienced player. He brought in Paul Rutherford, who was an experienced striker. But there was a lot of, Ken, when I read this thing about a lot of young players, there was a lot of experienced players, and maybe 3 or 4 young players like Ian Little, Matt Duthie, Marcel, Jason Young, Eric Fleming, who was an excellent young player. But it was a really Stuart Williamson, who was fantastic, Graham Davidson. So kind of a lot of good experienced players that looked after you on the pitch, and it was a great changing room. There was no Terry's boys or anything like that. Maybe that was happening with the older guys like Louis and Jim, but they didn't make us aware of it, and it wasn't something that was a feature in the changing room. It was a great changing room to be in. Alan Banks, Kevin Kane, and another 2 characters.
Yeah, I mean, you've just listed all the people that I've asked over the last couple of days. Like, give us some gossip on me.
On me.
Yeah.
I hope they say I was the funniest guy they've ever met in a changing room.
Not that far from the truth, actually. Everybody said that you're confident and probably trod the line between confident and arrogant, but you had the skill to back it up.
Do you know, I was thinking about that when you say about confidence, and I was thinking that about, see, growing up in an area like Drylaw, see if you weren't confident or you showed a sign of weakness, somebody would jump on that. Do you know what I mean? So although it's maybe a front, and it can you're a wee bit of apprehension behind it, but no, I think it was a good bunch of guys. I pretty much knew them all when I went into the changing room, apart from maybe a couple of the older players like Davy Roseborough, who was, as I say, was fantastic, and Graham Armstrong as well. So good pros, and it was hard. We had some good players, but I was thinking about when we played in the first division at that time, and Rafe Rovers would have Gordon Dalziel, Stevie Crawford, Brewster, top players. Kilmarnock would have Tommy Burns, George McCluskey. It was just after Bosman, and players who had been playing in the Premier League, when the foreigners who were taking their place in the Premier League, they were getting nudged down to the first division. So the first division was really, really strong, with players at that time. But I loved the changing room. When I first went, I wasn't aware of any sort of background noise at all, if I'm being honest.
Yes, I mean, I heard, so one of your ex-teammates, I won't call them out, but they said that every dressing room needs a Lee Bailey, somebody who just brings that bubbliness, the laughs and the jokes. So you mentioned Jason Young. He flat out refused to give me any gossip, but I mean, I've been told that you two were just like a married couple.
We were good friends. I've not actually seen him since lockdown. I don't know what's happened there. We need to catch up. But Youngie, when I first went to Meadowbank, when I signed, Youngie knew he would get dropped, so he quickly went to Germany. So he went to Germany for a couple of years, and then he come back. But it was great. It was when I first went. It was obviously myself and Paul Rutherford, and Willie Irvin was there. And I was thinking that today I would have loved to have played with Willie Irvin. Willie Irvin was a good footballer, good touch. Could play as a 2. I would have really liked to have played with Willie Irvin. He was a fantastic finisher as well. But I think it was more so maybe the last season at Meadowbank when Jason come back for Germany that we sort of started playing up front together. We were very, very similar. I mean, I was slightly quicker, better looking, and definitely worked harder than Youngie. We just had that sort of enthusiasm to play football and just worked our absolute socks off. So I did enjoy my time playing with him.
So I mean, you've got these two little guys up front. I mean, how tall are you? 5'8"? Jason's a bit similar height, I gather.
I think he's 5'6".
I mean, it must have been unconventional at that time to have two wee guys.
After training, we used to race against each other. We used to do press-ups against each other. We just used to compete against each other all the time. And it just sort of drove us on to try and be better. But it was just good. We similar. Both of us could talk, both of us going behind, had good movement. I was probably slightly better, which meant that he was scoring the goals. No, he was a good lad.
Super. And so you're working under Donald Park and George Mackey. How does that compare to what it was like at Hibs?
You know, like I was thinking about today, absolutely loved Donald Park. See his knowledge of the game, and then in my job when I stopped playing football, Donald was head of coach education at the SFA, and I was like a coach educator and that with the SFA for 10 years, and his knowledge of the game is fantastic. How to create space, the way he passed, the angle of the pass, kind of double movements, that kind of stuff. And he was brilliant. And I was thinking about like the managers I played under, like Donald, Craig Levine was a coach at Livingston, Jim Leishman, Dick Campbell, some well-known figures. But when I never learned anything through the day I left Hibs that I hadn't learned under Alec Miller, you know what I mean? But I don't know if that was because Miller's knowledge of the game was top drawer. I learned things under like Leishman about motivation and Dick Campbell about how to create a squad and things like that. But I didn't feel I'd learned anything knowledge-wise, like how to create space or how to score goals of that from the day I left Hibs. Do you know what I mean? But it's probably different when you're part-time, that you probably work more on fitness and you didn't work as much on shaping and that kind of stuff, because obviously you've only got 2 days a week, and there's a fitness aspect mainly on the Tuesday night, and then you obviously do your maybe possession games and some like set pieces and that on the Thursday night. Whereas when you're full time, you'll do your fitness stuff sort of Monday, Tuesday afternoon you'll do team shaping, Wednesday off, Thursday you'll do a bit, and then you'll do some team shaping, and then Friday you'll do maybe some set pieces. So there was a lot more time when you were full time to and Muller used to take us out and teach us the game. As soon as the midfielder shows an angle, you've got to do X, Y, and Z. Do you know what I mean? If he doesn't show that angle, I loved playing the Parky. I was devastated when he left Meadowbank. But I do think at Parky's strengths lay more as an assistant or a coach opposed to a manager. I don't think he really enjoyed that side of it, the boardroom stuff and the stuff that went along with it.
Yeah, so you mentioned the boardroom, and that's a good opportunity to ask what your first encounter with Bill Hunter.
Oh, I was sort of thinking about that, and he's to be fair, he took a liking to myself. The only problem I had with him was when Luton Town had put in a £70,000 bid for me after one of the seasons, and he wanted 100 grand. That was crazy. I was at least worth 200. Nah. I just concentrated on the football. I didn't really think in the board side of it, but any time I had any meetings with Bill, he was quite positive towards myself, but yeah, he was definitely quite a bullish type character. And he remember when one of my contracts, it says I'll give you £100 a goal. In the first 3 games, I scored 3, 2, and 1, and it was 600 quid. And he had a heart attack. Like he physically had a heart attack, and the boys were saying that's because you scored the goals, wee man. He wasn't able to pay you.
So that first season at Meadowbank reached the Challenge Cup semi-final. It was probably the first time that Meadowbank had any kind of run in that competition. You're 2-0 up against Falkirk. What do you think?
They were good. I remember the schoolboy Sloan scored late on, and Richard Cadet scored late on. We ended up getting beat. I think we ended up getting beat 3-2. The thing I remember about that game is I had one of the centre halves had an unbelievable tackle on me, and the stud went in my shin about half an inch. That's what I remember most about that game. When I took my shin pad, you could actually see the stud mark embedded right into my shin. I mean, as I say, we were a good side. We had some really good players, but what was hard was there wasn't many part-time teams in that league. Ken Falkirk were full-time, and Ken, the amount of times that we held our own for 70 minutes and then lost a goal in the last 20 minutes where it was more about the sort of fitness, because boys are working all day, Ken, they're working all week. But I remember that game, I couldn't believe it. It was at Brockville, they scored three late goals, I think.
Yeah, he was 0-0 at half time.
Was it?
And then Meadowbank suddenly 2-0 up. And
I remember that because I was playing against Yogi Hughes, and I was not taking more than 2 touches again because I didn't want them to tackle me.
well, there you go. He's done his job there then, hasn't he? So over the course of that season, which obviously ends in relegation, Graham Armstrong moves on, Jim McQueen moves on, and you kind of touched on it already, but did you sense there was a changing of the guard, or was it just players moving on?
I think that first season I'd went, and I remember I was really, as I say, I trained really hard over the close season. I was really sharp, and I got injured. And I think I was out for about 12 weeks or something in the first season. Got a problem with my groin. That was the one where got me thinking about Arthur Duncan. Here you're talking about how there was good experienced pros like Stuart Williams and Graham Armstrong. Arthur Duncan was a hidden gem. See his knowledge of the game when you went and got injured in that, and kind of the support that Arthur Duncan would give you was unbelievable. And kind of that time, because I was so frustrated because I obviously got free to Hibs. I'd been flying. I'd started the season quite well, and then getting injured. It was like, you'll get back fit. Don't worry, you'll get your chance. Ended up going. I think I was either the supporters player of the year or the players player of the year. As I say, we weren't really aware of there was like a change in the guard. At that time, Louis was probably about 38 and Rosie probably been about 37 or something. Do you know what I mean? So it was maybe they'd had it felt like change. It was never, I didn't know it was that they were getting pushed out. And by that time, Ellie was a better goalie than Jim McQueen anyway.
Sure, that'll go down well.
Jim will know like that one if he hears that.
Yeah, so as you say, you were voted as the Players' Player of the Year that season.
Was it?
2-3. So, I mean, when you get in that person, that individual praise on a relegation season, does it feel the same, or are you just happy to take what you get?
I think if you're getting any awards or that, if you get the Players' Player of the Year, that's the one that everybody sort of wants, because everybody wants to feel like they're part of the team, that the players appreciate them. And I think within that squad, we were a really close-knit squad. I can even if you saw training, nobody was down. Like we were getting, even if we got relegated or that, obviously we were disappointed, but still worked hard. There wasn't like it was in-house arguing or anything like that. It was there was still a really good group of players, and a kind of really good team spirit within the club. But yeah, it's never nice if you get relegated. But as I say, at that time, some proper good players and really good teams in the first division. You had like Rafe Rovers, Dunfermline, Kilmarnock. There was a lot of good Partick Thistle, real strong with real experienced players, and they were all full time, And as I say, but I didn't. As I said, I didn't realise that there was a sort of change in the guard that if they were getting pushed out. It was one of them where I think Malcolm Murray come in for Hearts, Gordon Ray I think come in, and there was a sort of maybe just change in the philosophy of the club with the way they played.
So the following season starts brightly, as you might expect but then Donald Park and George Mackey move on. What was your kind of view on that situation? How are you feeling at that time?
I was gutted. I was absolutely gutted. As I say, Parky, I love Parky, and I went on to know him kind of after it as well, through his job with the SFA and my job with the SFA at that time. So kind of really, really gutted, because I enjoyed his training, his knowledge, and he was a real football man, players manager. Do you know what I mean? I'm not sure why they left, but I think it was a situation, I don't know, it fell out with the board or something like that. I don't think they were sacking him. and I was gutted when Parky left.
And then John Brownlee comes in. He's not there for very long. What's your memory of that period?
I mean, obviously, being like a Hibs fan, John Brownlee was a fantastic player, and I met him around the place, around Easter Road, and when he come in, he would played the games. I think he was only there for 3 or 4 games, but it was a strange atmosphere at the club. It was like he didn't want to be there. I'm not sure what happened, and you could tell after about a couple of weeks that it wasn't going to last long, and I think one of Stuart Williamson was a real strong character at the club, and I don't think him and John seen eye to eye. Stuart was our captain, and Stuart got dropped, and he was one of our best players. And I think when people start getting dropped for personal reasons, opposed to football reasons, I think that has a wee effect on the squad. I think the manager sort of loses pace a wee bit. But as I say, it was a strange. There was no. You have fun at training. You work hard and you have fun, and that was sort of taking out the place a wee bit. The enjoyment was taken a wee bit out. Yeah, I've met John Brownlee since, and he's a nice enough guy, but I just don't think it was a good fit at the time.
So, his first game actually was a Scottish Cup game against Montrose, and the plans for Livingston were kind of in motion, and some people were bussed in from West Lothian. Were you aware of that at the time? Were you told you need to put on a show for these people from West Lothian?
No. Again, when I read that today, I had no idea. Absolutely no idea. I mean, I remember at that time the fans were like hunter out and that kind of stuff, and it was quite a strange atmosphere playing at the stadium. But they still got behind the team. Again, they were real hardcore fans. The Meadowbank fans were, again, they weren't glory hunters. Do you know what I mean? They were there because they loved the team, and obviously it was their community club. I weren't really aware of that. Maybe I was, but I mean it's a long time ago now. There was a bus, but I wasn't really aware of that situation.
And I mean, we'll bring it forward. So you're aware that the fans are protesting throughout this period. Mm-hmm. Does that have an impact in the dressing room?
It's when you cross the white line, I don't think it has an impact. I mean, obviously we would talk about the situation in the changing room and that kind of stuff, about the prospect of moving through to Livingston, kind of what it could potentially be like. But kind of about that at that time, and they were saying that it was going to be like a 4,000 seater stadium, crowds of about 2,000. So there was, probably for the younger players and kind of potentially going full time in that, probably younger players, it was giving them kind of something to look forward to. But there was obviously a lot of experienced guys who had good jobs, were now thinking about going full time. Ken were just going to stay part time. Ken, they were maybe thinking, right, how would it fit for them? Ken, they maybe stayed at far side of Edinburgh, so obviously having to travel for Livingston, it was maybe not convenient. So again, there was these kind of conversations, but I don't think it really affected us as a squad on the pitch. And obviously it's no nice when you're playing and it's more about a negative environment for the fans in the stand, opposed to getting really behind the team and kind of like celebrating a goal and that kind of stuff. But as I say, once you cross the white line, you're just thinking about playing football.
So Mickey Lawson comes in after John Brownlee. How did you enjoy playing for Mickey?
I think Mickey was a different type of manager to what I was sort of used to under Alec Muller and Donald Park.
Mickey said his abiding memory of you is being sat in your underpants, being sick at the front of the bus.
That was travel sickness. Anytime we used to travel on a country road on the bus, I used to get travel sick. It was horrible.
Has that got better over time?
Aye, I'm absolutely fine. When I stopped playing full time, I've become a driving instructor for a while. So but I mean, as I say, Mickey, and that is good Meadowbank man, had a good career at Meadowbank. He's a good lad.
So we got through the 93-4 season. Nobody pulled up any trees, but there wasn't another relegation, so you got to see the positives. The first game of the 94-5 season in the League Cup, you scored the fastest goal of the round.
Aye, that was that was the one when the new Predator boots come out, and I bought a pair of the Predator boots for Colin Campbell Sports, and that was when Bill Hunter says that he would give me £100 a go. And the first, I think it was the opening day of the season, was Brecon. And we won 5-1, and I scored a hat-trick. Scored 2 in the League Cup, got quickest goal of the round, £500, £200 bonus, scored a hat-trick on the Saturday, Brecon, got the £300, and then the midweek the following Saturday played Stennismuir again and scored again. So I remember getting £600 in goals and £500, and that's when Bill took his heart attack.
Well, so you mentioned the hat trick. So that game, the goals were wiped off.
So Bill had to honour it and give me the money for my hat trick. But because it was Paul Rutherford wasn't registered properly or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think he was suspended from the previous season. Halfway through the season, 4 lads turn up on an aeroplane, say, "Oh, we're from Barbados." What's going through your mind at that point?
Well, I see you smiling. That's what most of the guys were thinking. Like, what's going on here?
So they came over around Christmas time, and then they had to go back while they waited for their work permits, and then the work permits coincided with Jim coming in.
Right, aye, because I knew that Jim had come in, and he turned up at training. The first night at training, he turned up with 3 players, and then the guys from Barbados. So this is Jim Leishman, and here's another 7 players to join the squad. And to be fair, out the 4, 2 of them, Big Horace, stout, the goalkeeper, he was decent, and David Elaine was decent, but the other 2 probably weren't quite at the standard.
And what are you told when they just turn up? Like, where have you found them?
Aye, they're just saying that they were Barbados internationals, and they were coming over to trial for us, and it was for reason. Like,
I spoke to Horace, and Horace was like, "It's absolutely stereotypical. Like, this is the first time we've seen snow and all this sort of stuff."
I remember they had said that they were going to have a bounce game, and they actually had to clone a part of the pitch off. They had a bounce game to see them play, because about a 20-yard area was frozen all the way down the side at the stand, and it was crazy. It was like they must have thought, what is going on here?
Oh yeah, it is crazy, isn't it? Talk to me a bit about Corky.
Corky was obviously a coach, just an absolute wind-up merchant. Just winds everybody up. Good lad, but he just doesn't know that. Kind of, you draw a line in the sand, and you didn't go beyond it. Corky goes about 10 years past it. That's he just does not know when to stop. He has no.
So I think during that season he got a 12-month ban for shouting at the referee in a reserve game.
That doesn't surprise me. Does not surprise me. He's not politically correct. We'll say that.
So the other kind of remarkable thing in that season was the Scottish Cup run, where you played Berwick twice in consecutive nights. Talk me through how that is when you know that the goal is getting through to play Celtic.
That was a strange one, because we played them on the Monday night, and Berwick had a good side, and it was a funny one, because it was a lot of ex-Meadowbank players. You had Willie Irvin, you had I'm sure Banksy was Kevin Kane and Banksy were playing for Berwick. They were a good side, and we played them on the Monday night. I think it was 1-1. I scored. I got man of the match. We went to play them on the Tuesday night. Mickey dropped me. I'm like, couldn't understand it, and he put me on maybe about, I don't know, 10-15 minutes to go, and I've scored the equaliser. And then Stuart, I think they scored again. I think Kano scored, and Stuart got a penalty late on, and they handed the ball to me, and I didn't know what to take it, and I handed it to Stuart Wilson. He took the penalty, 2-2, and then I think Ellie's the master of penalty kick. Going into any penalty shootout, I would definitely have Steve Ellison there. He's fantastic at them, and we beat them in the penalty shootout. We got a day out at Hampden, because Celtic Park was getting revamped.
So it was the only time Meadowbank ever played Celtic, and of course it wasn't at Celtic Park. What was that like as a day out?
That was good. Celtic were really good to us, took us through, gave us a meal at Parkhead, in their restaurants and that kind of stuff, and they were strong. I mean, you had like the John Collins and Van Hooijdonk in real strong side, and it was a tough day. I think it got beat 3 or 4-1. I'm not sure, but that was good for the club, because obviously they got a lot of money through that and made a lot. That was good. It was a good day, but Celtic were a strong side then.
So you've had the trip to play Celtic. Jim Leishman comes in. What's the change from Mickey Lawson to Jim Leishman?
Again, charismatic, funny, larger than life. As I say, come in with 7 players the first night. 3 fifers, obviously, because he's a Fife guy, and 4 guys from Barbados, adopted fifers. I mean, at that time when with Jim, he was just such a motivator. Man management skills. I mean, I fell out with all the time, but you couldn't know like him, because his man management skills were really good. But in terms of, as I say, that's the motivator, charismatic. That time, that's exactly what the club were going to make a move. They needed somebody like that at the helm to drive the club forward. Had a lot of contacts, getting a lot of business interest, that kind of stuff. So he was perfect in that. In terms of creating a team, what he did was he signed good, experienced players, and he signed a lot of players to create competition. He always had his squads were always quite high in numbers. So at that time, when we first made that move to Livingston, you had, like, say, Jason Young, myself, Graham Harvey, who's an excellent player for Hibs in Dundee. He was about 35, 36. Steve Maskery, Wayne Foster, ex-Hearts. So he created a lot of competition, and you knew if you didn't do it, you were out the team. So that was the main driver. But he was a fantastic motivator, and at that time, as I say, he had lots of contacts in the game. He definitely raised the profile of the club, both Meadowbank and Livingston, and he creates a lot of attention, and he got a lot of interest around the place.
Yeah, so you mentioned Graham Harvey then, and he sent me a question on Instagram for you.
Mm-hmm.
He'd like to know what it's like being kept out of the team by Jason Young.
It probably wasn't that bad, because I must have been injured. There was a lot of competition for places, and if you went out the team at that time at Livingston, I think only over a 3-year period, Manchester United and Rangers were the only 2 teams that accumulated more points in a 3-year period than Livingston. So if you went out the team with an injury or that, it was hard to get back in, because it was good players, lots of competition, good players. I have spent his fair time on the bench as well.
That's what we want to hear, fighting talk.
7 Terriers, that's what keeping them out the team. I think with Livingston and that, because I'd been at Meadowbank, and obviously probably about 5-6 years, I was probably quite a strong character, and I felt confident within it. And when I went to Livingston, there was opportunity to go full time again, so it worked perfectly for me, because I just finished my HND in sports coaching development, opportunity to become full time, and I also worked in the commercial department. So I would go out and get sponsorship for boards. I run the Livingston community programme, because I'd obviously done that at college, and basically, like, on a Saturday morning, we were getting 100 kids paying a fiver. I was getting the young players and people who had been at college with, and giving them like £20 an hour. We'd have all these kids on a Saturday morning. We'd run holiday camps, mini kickers. So pretty much run all the community programme for Livingston. And it was they used to sort of say Mr. Livingston, because you'd have your article in the local paper. You were running the community programme. You were one of the best looking at the club, and you were scoring a few goals now and again. So it was quite. I'll tell a funny story though. So here's a good one. So when we first went through Livingston, there was 2 songs. He gets the ball and scores the goals, Jason Young, and then the other one was It's a Goal, Lee Bailey, right? So Leishman would be walking around Almond Vale going, gets the ball and scores the goals, Jason Young, right? So, and I used to follow it with Leishman all the time. And he would go, it's a goal, it's ah ha ha ha, it's a goal, ah ha ha ha, but he never said my name, right? And it used to drive me crazy. Can he be singing about scoring goals? And he would say, it's a goal, ha 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 ha, right? So one night comes in training, I've put a full strip for training, but I've put a full Livingston strip on. I've got black boot polish, I've covered it all over my face, my hands, jet black. I've got a pen and wrote, oh ha ha ha, on the back of my Livingston top. And he's coming, he's like, what you effing doing? And I says, I'm that new striker, oh ha ha ha, you keep singing it. All the boys were killing themselves laughing.
Brilliant. So Jim's come in. You've been relegated twice in 3 seasons at Meadowbank. How does that reflect on you personally? Do you take it personally?
You definitely do, because for the standard of player that we had, we shouldn't have been getting relegated. I mean, the guys like Stuart Williamson, Graham Davidson, Gordon McLeod. Do you know what I mean? We had a lot of good players, and well, it was just, I think maybe the club was just losing direction a wee bit. Ken, it was all that, as you're saying, maybe that negativity coming surrounding about the move. Ken, everybody's like, when's it going to happen? And I think it was like a split though, because although it was a relegation, was it no like there was quite a big split, because it went for really 4, so it was like, I think you finished 6th or something and you got relegated or something like that, but I'm not entirely sure. But it wasn't a good feeling, but I think just when, as I say, when Jim come in and his sort of enthusiasm and his motivation, skills, and that sort of selling the dream of moving, which was obviously quite sad because obviously the history behind Frankie Thistle, Meadowbank Thistle playing there for that length of time. Just, it would have been good if it could have happened in Edinburgh.
Yeah, I mean, so there's 2 things that jump out. One is you've done all these little kickers, all these kids sessions. You're going out doing this promotional work, but none of that ever seemed to happen at Meadowbank. It's only,
No.
oh well, we've got this opportunity in Livingston. Now we'll do this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think one thing that's forgotten or not talked about enough is the opportunity that the move provided to the players. So, like yourself, you've got that opportunity to go full time again. Is that that must be a huge opportunity for you?
Yes, I mean, it's that thing where all you have to concentrate on is your football. Do you know what I mean? So and plus you've got more time to again work on your finishing, more time to work on team shaping. So all these benefits, and obviously when you go full time, you're attracting better players, you're training with better standard of players. There's higher competition for places. You're winning more games. You're attracting more attention. You're getting bigger crowds. I mean, we're probably getting about 3,000 crowds in that at times, 4,000 at Almond Vale. Any time we were getting drawn against like a St Johnstone or a Kilmarnock and that, we were beating them. Most of the time, Partick Thistles and that kind of stuff. And we were always, I think, for a 3-year period, we were never out the top 2 or 3, ever in the league. So it was quite an exciting time because you had, but and that was the thing. Like the younger guys like Ferret, Mark Duffy, Jason Young, Stephen Rains, the younger guys going through there. It was a good experience to go back full time again. It was all, most of the players and most of the guys that I grew up playing with or against. So you had a good bond and you fought for each other. So it was a good experience when we first went through Livingston. I do see the point of how it would come about and what happened with Meadowbank. A personal point of view, it was a chance, an opportunity that you couldn't really turn down.
Absolutely. And I appreciate that. And that's a story that needs telling. So I'm really glad that we've spoken about that. What was it like in, I don't know, the graveyard shift where you're Livingston, but you're still playing at Meadowbank Stadium?
Do you know, like, I looked at that and obviously there wasn't the crowds, but you had this, you were getting quite a lot of publicity in the paper because we were changing to Livingston. You had Leishman there, you had George McNeil, who come as Leishman's number 2, who's a fantastic guy. Arthur Duncan and George McNeil's the 2 nicest guys I've met in football, along with Donald Park. And George was unbelievable. I mean, unbelievable waste fitness stuff. We had the quickest team, honestly. Mark Duffy, Graham Davidson, David Allain, Kevin McGee. We had the quickest team. It was unbelievable. See, when you were doing sprints, I was sharp. I was never really fast, but I was sharp. You were working, and these guys were just like cruising. But George had us sprinting. We were on the speed balls every day. We were on plyometric stuff. We were doing all kinds of sprints. He had us on creatine way before the England squad were on it. In the first 11, I think we won 10 of the first 11 games or something. It was on it. Everything was on a high. It was like keep it going, keep it going. And obviously you were bringing in players. There was actually, at that time, there was probably about 5 or 6 players that were full time, because you had Grant McMartin, Craig Smart, Chris Sinclair. So they had already been brought in, they were training, and you had Horace and David Allain. You had 5 or 6 players that were training full time. And obviously that when we went to Livingston, it was going to be increasing the numbers. So it was strange to be called. I found it strange because obviously I played for Meadowbank for like 4 seasons. And Ken, who do you play for now? I play for Livingston, but you were still playing at Meadowbank. But I think because we'd started the season so well and we were cruising at the top of the league and we were undefeated, it was just trying to right, stay undefeated till we get to Livingston and we kick on again. So we were trying to, the more we win games, the more interest we generate, probably the bigger the crowds are going to come and watch us. And as I say, there was so much competition for places that if you dropped your standards, you were out. And Big Lee shouldn't allow that, because he was a good man manager and he was a good motivator.
And so for that first season at Livingston, win the league quite comfortably.
Cruised it. Absolutely, aye. It was we had a great balance of experienced players who were part-time, like Stuart Williamson, Graham Davidson, Gordon McLeod, and then you had the real stars like Jason Young, myself. I'm only kidding, I can't wind a few of them up. And so you had that, but we were so quick. Mark Duffy, Grant Martin in wide areas, David Allain, fast. We attacked it at pace. Yeah, it was, and I think it was good because obviously we'd played, obviously play maybe some cup games in a season and there'd be bigger crowds and that, but the majority of the time we're playing in front of 300 people at Meadowbank, and they're quite a distance away from you at times, but you were playing in front of 2,500, 3,000 crowd. It was great to go out there and play. And there was a whole buzz about the place. And as I say, with that sort of commercial stuff that I was doing, I was in the community, I was going into schools, I was drumming up in local businesses to sponsor the programmes, to sponsor match balls, to sponsor games, to get the boards and that. So it was a real sort of drive with everybody to try and just grow the profile of the club.
So after that first season where you've won the league quite comfortably, are you expecting that to carry on and just be back in the first division where you started and kind of you were on an even keel?
I think we were, yeah. Can't remember what happened that. I think the first season, I'm sure Youngie won Player of the Year for the division, and then the start of the next season we had brought in 10 other players like Cam Callahan, brought in Graham Watson, ex-Aberdeen, Stevie Campbell, good player, ex-Dundee United, and there was more players coming in. That's when the likes of Steve Maskery, Wayne Foster, and that started to come in. We had a real big squad. But as I say, we did feel like we could pretty much compete with anybody. In that outside the Premier League, we could compete with anybody. So I went down, and I remember the first game of the season, we got hammered for Ayr United 5-2. And that's the first time and pretty much the only time I've seen Big Jim lose the plot in the changing room, and that pretty much never happened again. We were on it, and I think it went to like a crunch match. I think we were like in second place or third place. I think it was us, Hamilton, and somebody else to win the league. And there was a real crunch match at Almond Vale. And I remember it's the best, all my career, it's the best speech I've ever heard for any manager. Big Jim, he's standing there and he's saying, can look to the guy on the right, look at him in the eyes, tell him you're not going to let him down the day. Look to the guy on the left, look at him in the eyes, tell him you're not going to let him down. And he made us line up and go one by one past him, looking at him in the eyes. Gaffer, I'm not going to let you down. He had us all piped up. We were ready to go. He's got the door and he's ready. We're like, we're ready. And then he opened the door and he shut it. He's like, he's only ready. And like, we're ready. He opens the door. I scored in the first minute. It was unbelievable. It was the best. It was hairs on the back of your neck stuff. We ended up getting beat 2-1 for Hamilton. And I think they went up. It was Quitango dive for a penalty. But that was. Did we finish? I think we finished third that.
Yeah, that's right. So third behind Hamilton and Ayr United.
So that was a crunch game. They finished third, and then the following season we hit the tracks running again. I think we'd lost in the first 11 games. I think we were 11 points clear or something at one point in the season, and then that was when the whole atmosphere at the club changed. That's when the new owners come in, John McGuinness, and he won a lot, 10 million. It was Dominic Keane and William Fauquier, two Celtic directors, and they come in and we were 11 points clear, cruising the league, and they just started buying everybody, and they were just bringing them into the squad, and you had like 30, 40 players at the club, and then you had us, kind of like the core who'd been there for all the seasons, and then you had all these players coming in on quadruple the wages that we were getting, and they weren't doing it. And then the whole atmosphere changed, and I think there was 3 games to go. We needed 3 points to win the league, 2 points to get promoted, and we only got 1 point in the last 3 games.
Yes, I mean, looking at the league table now, it's Stranraer first, 61 points, Clydebank second, 60 points, Livingston third, 59. That just illustrates exactly how close it was.
We were on 59 points with 3 games to go. We only needed 3 points to win the league. Stranraer was second bottom of the league at Christmas, and they went and won 20 to 21 games. It was great, unbelievable. I think Clydebank had to win by a certain amount of goals or something as well if we were drawn. We were injured. Me and Youngie were injured for the last month of that season. That was a tough watch. But as I say, we just signed so many players. But a lot of them older players, ex-Premier League and that, and it just, the atmosphere at the club just totally changed. And you could just see it getting worse and worse and worse. As I say, it was crazy. We needed 2 points to win the league for the last 3 games, and we didn't do it.
And it is the writing on the wall for you at the end of that season then?
Well, everybody knew. So at that time, we knew that Jim was going to be stepping down. So you're thinking of a team that only Rangers and Man United had accumulated more points in over a 3-year period, and every single player who was out of contract, wasn't getting offered a contract. I think there was only Gordon Forrest and Ian McAlden. That was the only 2 players that got kept for that squad. But it was one of them where it was coming to the end anyway, kind of probably. And then obviously they spent a lot of money and they kicked on again. But again, good luck to them. Good times at Livingston, and everything's going to come to an end. But I just think we could have held that off for another 3-4 months, and just would have definitely won the league. And then
so you're leaving Livingston. Have you got offers coming out your ears? Or?
I'd had loads of clubs. Everything was part-time. At that time, I was engaged. I was about to get married, and there was loads of part-time clubs, so I thought I better get myself a job. So Graham Harvey got me a job in the post office, and he done his one good deed, and then he didn't do me such another good deed with telling me something. So I was training with loads of part-time club, East Fife, Stenhousemuir, Queen of the South, that kind of stuff. So I was training with Stenny, and it was brilliant. Terry was the manager. Always knew Terry's reputation, wanted to work under him. Louis was there, he was the assistant manager. You had Yano, Ian Little, Maxie Christie, Banksy, Kano. They were all there, and for some reason I signed for Queen of the South. To this day, I don't know why I did it, and I wished I'd have signed for Stennishoe at that time, because it was all good guys, good players, and I went down to Queen of the South, and after about 3 months of driving 2 hours down to training, 2 hours back, I just thought to myself, why on earth did I do that?
Did they offer more money?
A lot more money. A lot more money. No, they were, in terms of part-time payers, they were paying full-time wages. There was times I was making more part-time than what I was probably making, or close to what I was making at Livingston full-time. So sometimes it was chemist bags with cash.
Let's not make any accusations. So while you're at Queen of the South, did you have 2 sets of joint managers?
So I signed for Rowan Alexander, and Rowan got the sack, and then it was George Rowe and Kenny Day became joint managers. Kenny Day was a top guy, he was a top player. George Rowe used to play against him all the time when he was at Queen of the South. I used to score against him all the time. I think that's why they signed me, but I don't think George liked me for that fact. Nah, for me, the travelling was it was too far. And after, they started to play me in centre midfield, and it wasn't really suited to. I'm not a centre midfielder. I've always played with a striker with my back to goal, and didn't really suit me. So I just had to get back up the road, and I would come back up the road weekend. But it's a good club and big club, Queen of the South, but it's a strange place, strange atmosphere.
Okay. So we move on to Brecon, and there you're working with Dick Campbell, right?
Well, it was John Young, good friend of Dick Campbell. He's up there at Brecon, and Brecon's a fantastic club, honestly. For part-time clubs, the way you get treated up there, the people are the fans, the backroom staff, the wee tea women who you go up and they make all your sandwiches, and it was an absolute fantastic club. And I went up there, and it was all guys that had played with at Hibs, like Stevie Rains, Paul Riley, and Dougie Coulston, who had played with at Meadowbank, and that kind of stuff. So again, pretty much knew half the squad. We were travelling up for Great Edinburgh. I was cracking jokes all the way up in the car. Everybody's laughing, and it was just it was a good time. And then Youngie left. I don't know if he had some health issue or something. And then Dick Campbell come in, and we met Dick.
But his reputation precedes him.
He's a character. He's a definite character. So met Dick there, and he's pretty much like Leishman. He's a motivator, can organise his squad, always has more players than he needs, so he creates competition, and he was successful at Brecon, done really well there.
Any stories about him?
Yeah, none that I could tell, because they'd be swearing on him. He's probably the most successful lower league manager there is around, but again, he doesn't take training. He'll let people take the training. But he's still. It's funny because I was speaking to a player who played under him recently at Arbroath, and he was still telling the stories, or his team talks were still the same as what they were 25 years ago. So nothing changed, no tactic, motivation, and but he does a great job, and he's now top of the league at East Fife now. So he's doing something right. But no, he attracted good players. Roddy Grant, real good players he could attract just with his contacts in the game. But he's definitely an old school manager. I don't think they get away with a lot of the managers I played under. I don't think they'd get away with now the way they treated players to what they did back then.
So, does Dick Campbell get rid of you at the end of the season?
Still an Albion coming for me. We were top of the league at Brecon, and Ray Stewart, they come in for me, and he said, and it was probably nearly double what I was getting at Brecon. He says, "Do you want to go?" And as I say, I was just about getting married, that kind of stuff, and I just said, "I'll go." I went down to Stirling Albion, and again, that was my cleverest choice. I looked at the changing room at Stirling Albion, and it was unbelievable. We had like Gordon Hunter, and played 400 games for Hibs. You had John Muller, ex-Hearts. The whole squad was Premier League experience, lots of games, 200-300 games, every player. And I'm thinking, why are they struggling at the bottom of the league? And what you were saying earlier was everybody needs a Lee Bailey in the changing room. And one of the first things that they says to me when you come in is, we need you to try and lift this changing room to try and get the fun in it. And I'm like, what? And I'm looking around the players thinking, how are we struggling? And then as soon as Raymond spoke, I knew why. And it was great player, great knowledge of the game, unbelievable how he treated people. It was incredible. And then that was it. You're going to be my main, he'd be saying, you're going to be my main player, and your experience, that kind of stuff. And then you weren't even in the squad. And you're like, it was unbelievable.
He didn't stick it out long there.
No, well, that's what I'm saying. He got rid of most of the players. I had re-signed a contract, re-signed the contract. He was saying to me, Ken, I've got a lot of young players with your experience, that kind of stuff. I need you to be a kind of big part of the squad. And then he brought Jim Muffet in as assistant manager. And then at the point that Jim Muffet come in, I never made a squad. I never got in a squad, and it was all young kids. And I wasn't even in the squad. And I knew, well, Jim Muffet had a lot to do with it, because I then went to East Fife, and I was doing really well at East Fife. Fans liked us, that kind of stuff. And then Jim Muffet become the manager. And when the chairman said the speech to the players saying, we've appointed Jim Muffet, some of you will be happy with that decision. I know you, Lee, you might not be happy with that decision. Right away I thought, oh well, that'll be the end of me then. So I don't know what happened there, but but still, an Albion was a good club, good players, but it was just atmosphere. I've never been in a changing room like my life where, Ken, when you went in there, even if Meadowbank were struggling, you still had a great changing room, great people, good pros, and it was good ex-pros in that changing room, and then you walked in and the atmosphere was incredible.
So you had a short spell with East Fife, and then how long did you carry on playing? Did you play until you dropped?
At the end of that season, played all the games until the end of the season, and at the end of it, Jim Muffet says, I'm not going to offer you a contract. And I says, I'm delighted with that, because I would never have signed it anyway. And like the one thing that I always took for as a player, if you ever went into coaching or management, is be honest with your players. That's what players want. Didn't lie to them. And went playing junior. Big clubs, Bonnyrigg Rose, Kelty Hearts, good setups, good clubs. And then obviously I stopped playing.
Yeah, so tell us a bit more about your work over the last 20 years.
Aye, so when I stopped playing full time and I went to play for Queen of the South, I was a postman for a year, and then I was training to become a driving instructor. So it was just like, I went to college and done the sports coaching and development, and I'd run the Livingston community programme, and I'd always done loads of coaching, so I just thought it's just like coaching people to drive. And then I'd done that for about 12, 13 years full time, and then I got offered a job with the Scottish FA in Fife Council as a football development officer in 2011. And that was so I would deliver all the coach education to all the coaches in Fife. We do like 200 primary school sessions a week, disability sessions, walking football, girls only football. We do stuff like with criminal justice, we integrated people who've committed crimes back in the community. We're starting to work a lot more with like people with addiction and like mental health issues and that kind of stuff. So although it's football's the sort of the main driver, but it's trying to like create that sort of community environment. And now the SFA partnership has stopped us now, but we still are full time with the council, and it's an active communities team. We have the football department, you've got cycling, you've got walking, etc. It's a good job, and you still get a chance to do some coaching. And obviously I was the assistant manager at Viking for 4 years with Darren Dodds, and I managed to get promotion up to the championship. So aye, that's been good. And as like a coach educator with the Scottish FA stuff, so done all my A licence, elite youth licence, that kind of stuff. So I really enjoyed the coaching side of it.
It sounds really rewarding.
It is. The disability stuff's fantastic, and obviously like people with dementia and people who are like doing the walking, where maybe their spouse has passed away, and that's the thing that they live for, their weekly thing. And the walking footballers we've got have been playing for like 8-9 years. They go for Christmas dinner and that together. It's fantastic. I'm glad that, like, looking back, a wee boy just playing football in Dryler, tough streets, and you're thinking, a lot of my friends, they didn't sort of get out of these areas, but football was definitely my way out, and I'm glad football and everything, every person I've met, along the way, there's people, like, as I say, I've not seen Jason Young for 5-6 years, but if I see him tomorrow, it'll be like I seen him yesterday. So that's what it's like, and it's always good to get that Meadowbank golf out and then see the guys again and meet the ex-player.
Oh yeah, you're just demonstrating the warmth that I've experienced speaking to anybody who played for Meadowbank at any time. You just have this such warmth for the club, and then that club bringing them together.
So you got treated really well. The people were great. Old Peter, the kit man, old Jackie, who used to open the door at Meadowbank.
So I'll touch briefly on your time with Darren Dodds at Breakin. So did you play with Darren at Hibs?
And Darren was a few years younger than me. He was a young boy at Hibs when I was there. And we mainly met, we were doing the elite youth licence together with the SFA. And obviously, he'd obviously liked what he saw when I was coaching, and he got offered the Breakin job. He asked if I would go along as his manager. So I had to get the permission for the SFA to do that, because you couldn't have me wearing on the sidelines at a referee, then delivering a coach education course. I think it was difficult in the sense that, for me, there's too many controllable factors, like referees' decisions, injury, and people not being able to get off their work, that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? There was so many external factors. You could be the best prepared, but it was difficult. We managed to get promoted up to the Championship, but then once you got there, you're playing against Dundee United and St Mirren and all that kind of stuff. It was a tough ask.
Yeah, so I mean, that promotion seems to have come as a huge surprise, and is a huge success.
The promotion was incredible, but I've got every session it was delivered, the whole season getting promoted, and every session was working on attacking, counter-attacking, attacking in wide areas, midfield support. Everything was talking about playing the ball forward, positive, attacking with 6 and 7 players. Every session. We get to the Championship, I look at all my sessions, it's even when we've got a corner, setting up for a counter-attack, because the amount of times that we got a corner, we almost lost a goal because the teams that we were playing against were so quick on the counter-attack. And every session was a defensive type session. It was almost like we were only committing 3 players to attack against Dundee United. Do you know what I mean? Because if we lost the ball, they were going to exploit, and it was just, so the sessions become negative. The player's mindset becomes negative. Remember, you could be at your absolute best for 70 minutes. You couldn't play any better. You'd end up getting beat 3-0 because the guys would just run out the leg. And you get into the Championship was fantastic, but when you were there, it was quite difficult mentally. The players were giving you everything, you were giving everything, and you were achieving nothing at the end of it. It was quite a negative season in the Championship.
Yeah, I mean, so you look at the end of the season, for people that don't know, it was played 36, drew 4 and lost 32.
32, never won a game.
But they kept you on for the following season. Did that come as a surprise? Were you expecting to come into trouble at some point in terms of your job?
Not really. We never ever lost the players. With the 2 training was like, Darren pretty much gave me free scope, and Stevie Campbell was there, free scope to take the training. Just with obviously the job I do within the SFA, and Stevie's experience and Darren's experience, the training was always structured to what we're going to do. Everybody knew their role. The training was always interesting, and that's what they spoke about. The training was so good, and we always had them on side, and we were always organised. We always had them prepared. Never lost. Do you know what I mean? We were treated them like proper human beings. We never lost the plot like some old school managers and that kind of stuff. And I think the fact that we never lost the dressing room, the players still were with us, and the board were still with us. They seen how we prepared the team, and they were, and the way we played. Ken, there was so many games within that season that could have kind of tossed a coin. It could have been went the other way, but we were just out of our depth.
So the following season didn't go that great.
Well, we had 3 of our best players were out injured long term the following season, and we were in the top 4. And the first time we fell out the top 4 that season, they sacked us, but that was fine. I mean, it is what it is. But if you look what happened to them, we left them in 5th place. They got relegated that season for the first division. They got relegated the second season for the second division, and they've been stuck in the Highland League. So they definitely didn't progress after we left, which is a shame because it's a good club.
Yeah, I mean, you spoke really warmly about being there as a player, and then seeing pretty positive as a manager, as coaching staff. What do you think has caused that dramatic slide?
They got rid of me and Darren.
And that's the perfect answer.
I don't know, because they're spending a lot. The budget's far greater now than whatever budget ever was. We had the lowest budget ever in the Championship. Our budget when we went at the Championship, it was only 2 part-time teams. Dumbarton's was 300 grand and ours was 140. That was in the Championship. That was for players' wages. The budget's far greater now, but I don't know, it's hard. Once you go down to these Highland leagues, it's hard to try and get back out again. But hopefully this year they might win it, and that'd be some playoff if they did, because it's looking like it's going to be forfeit and breaking forfeit in a playoff.
Would you ever consider another coaching job in the pro game? Or
no, the job I've got now, I've got 25 coaches, and we're pretty much running community programs for the county, and it is mainly for people's well-being and mental health, and just try to get inactive people more active. That last season at the Championship, it was probably quite negative, and there's just so many uncontrollable factors that I'm not really that fussed if I got back in again to take a team.
I think anybody would say that after that season.
I think because we've got, like, our performance academy, we've had something like 19 girls who've made like under 17 and under 19 Scottish squads. So I'd maybe go into the girls game. The girls game would be something that I might get, or like go to America and deliver a curriculum at a big school or that kind of stuff, because I've done that kind of created curriculum for like Fife Elite and things like that. So I can definitely, on maybe the youth side, I would go back in, or the girls game I'd go back in, but I wouldn't.
Yeah, so if you're listening and you work at an American university, this is your man.
I had a few chances to go, but probably I'll be in the right time.
And so, do you see any of your old teammates now?
I do still see Ferret, Mark Duffy, Stevie Rains, Chris Reid was my best man. He's down in Southampton now. But I obviously see the guys when we go to the Meadowbank outings. But there was out in December with some of the old Hibs players, like Corky was there, Alan Snedden, Gordon Hunter, Callum Milne, that kind of stuff. Graham Harden. We'll catch up and have a few drinks when you walk in the door at 52, and then after an hour you think you're 24 again, and they're flying and everybody's excited. So it'll be good, and it'll be good to go and see all the guys.
Lee, thank you so much for your time. Really, really appreciate you being on the podcast.
It was really good today when you sent that stuff through, and you're just sort of reminiscing about the good times and that, and now when you look back in 1992, that's like 30 odd year ago. You know what I mean?
The year I was born.
Was it? The year you were here, oh dear. So it's good, and that's the thing. Like football, that's why I work so hard at my job now, because I know the opportunity that football gives someone. Do you know what I mean? So what you try and give these opportunities to these young kids coming through, getting in deprived areas, that kind of stuff. So football's given me everything. Ken obviously managed to get a good looking wife because I was no bad at football as well, and 2 lovely kids who are doing really well.
So there we have it, Lee Bailey. Thank you again, Lee, so much for joining us on the podcast. Guys, if you head over to X now and follow at Meadowbank This, you'll get a Thistle on This Day post every afternoon. We're also getting tagged in all sorts of things now, so there's photos and videos shared by other clubs and their fans. You might just get to see something you've never seen before. You can also follow us on the same handle, it's at Meadowbank This on Instagram, where you're going to see a lot more photos. If you've got photos to share, then please get in touch. Any and all photos will be credited to the photographer. The other ways to contact us are the Meadowbank Thistle FC Facebook page or via email. It's meadowbankthis@gmail.com. David Baxter is currently digitising taped interviews he conducted in the 80s and 90s, which I can assure you is very exciting. I hope to be able to share some snippets of those soon. I'm still looking to contact a number of former players who I've not been able to track down yet. If you know anybody who ever played a single game for Meadowbank Thistle, for the first team, for the reserves, or just somebody who likes football history, let them know what we're doing here, and hopefully we can spread this story far and wide. This is the Meadowbank Thistle podcast. I'm Morgan Knock, and for now, it's goodbye.